The family that prays together stays together. Welcome to our today doctrinal reflection, guided by the theme to embrace redemptive suffering as Our Lady of Sorrows. By this, we see this means the willingness, the acceptance, hence offering oneself up in pain, in trials, for the sake of the greater good. For Mary, her sorrows are seen as a participation in the suffering of her Son. By embracing these sorrows, she aligns herself with the will of God, the plan of God of salvation. This acceptance of suffering is seen as a way to unite oneself more closely with God and to the participation in the work of redemption. This concept is rooted in the Catholic theology, where Mary, as a mother of Jesus, is seen sharing in his suffering and playing a significant role in the redemption of humanity. We see the redemptive suffering draws us closer to God. It unites our suffering with that of Christ, hence spiritual growth. According to Pope John Paul II of Happy Memories, now St. John Paul II, in this particular context, he refers to Mary as a co-redeemer, one who participated in the suffering of Christ and in the redemption of humanity. In his encyclical Salvific Doloris, that is, on the human suffering, he refers to Mary as the woman of the yes, who united herself with the suffering of her Son for the salvation of mankind. With this, we see the 7 sorrows of Our Lady, and the first sorrow we experience is the prophecy of Simeon. In Luke chapter 2, verse 34 to 35, we see that Mary and Joseph go to present baby Jesus in the temple. There they meet Simeon, a holy man who was not to see death until he sees the Messiah. And he prophesies that a sword will pierce the heart of our mother Mary, and the child who is Jesus is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel. The second is the flight to Egypt. This can be found in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 to 15. We see that King Herod had given a decree that all the male infants to be killed. Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus flee to Egypt so as to save the young baby Jesus. We see that in time for fleeing, they only carry few essential things, hence being refugees in the land of Egypt. The third is Christ gets lost in the temple. Here we see that Mary and Joseph had gone for the annual Passover feast. Then Christ is lost for 3 days. This causes pain to the mother. When the mother looks for him and finally gets him, he says, "Don't you know I'm supposed to be in the house of my Father?" And we are told all these things Mary kept in her heart. The fourth, we see Mary meets Jesus on her way to Calvary. Witnessing his suffering and humiliation, deep down in her heart, Mother Mary knew that her Son was innocent despite the various accusations and allegations against him. You can imagine a crowd beating up, mocking you in the presence of your helpless mother. The fifth, Jesus dies on the cross. Mary stood at the foot of the cross as her Son was being crucified, experiencing unimaginable grief and sorrow. You can imagine a 33-year-old man being crucified, naked, with only a piece of cloth around his waist. Amidst a crowd, Mary as the mother had to bear this shame. The sixth, Mary receives the body of Jesus. After Jesus had died, Mary held his lifeless body in his arms, mourning the loss of his beloved. The seventh and the last, we are seeing Jesus is laid to the tomb. Mary witnessed the burial of Jesus, experiencing the finality of the death and the sorrow of her loss. In most cases, parents pray that their own children should bury them. But in this case, we see Mary witnessing the burial of his own Son. Just like Mary, let's always be ready to suffer for the sake of the kingdom, since no pain, no gain. No Good Friday, no Easter Sunday. No thorn, no throne. Our Lady of Sorrows, pray for us. The family that prays together stays together.